She used to call me her cute ugly buffer. And I used to laugh, because what else do you do when your best friend hands you an insult with a wink? My name's Grace, but next to her, I was just the other one. Chloe was the sparkle. I was the background noise. In high school, being close to Chloe felt like a privilege. She had long honey blonde hair, lashes that looked fake but weren't, and a smile that made our history teacher forget his own name. Me? I was the smart one. The one with acne scars and thrifted jeans and a quiet laugh. When we went to parties, she'd lean over and say, "If a hot guy talks to me, you distract his boring friend." And I would. I'd talk about bands or books with some guy who barely looked at me. Because Chloe said I was such a great sidekick. In college, she started a beauty blog. I helped her draft captions, edited her videos, even booked her brand collabs under a fake manager email, which was actually just me. She called me her shadow CEO. Cute, right? I never got paid. I never asked to be. Because I thought loyalty meant saying yes. Then one night, I opened Twitter. And saw her post. Every hot girl needs an ugly friend. Makes your skin glow even more face-blowing a kiss. I stared at the screen. 12,000 likes. 4,000 retweets. And not a single text from her explaining it. Not even a LOL, you know it's a joke. That night, something in me didn't break. It woke up. I didn't confront her. Didn't comment. Didn't play the hurt friend card. Instead, I got quiet. Focused. And decided I would never again be someone else's background. After the tweet, I didn't block her. I didn't unfollow. I wanted her to watch me disappear, not all at once, but slowly, like fog lifting from the ground. I changed majors. From communications to business tech and strategy. Less glitter. More grind. I stopped helping with her blog. No fight. No announcement. Just silence. She texted a few times. "Hey, are you mad? Can we talk? Babe, don't be weird." I didn't respond. Because this time, I wasn't just walking away. I was building something behind her back, the way she always built everything on top of mine. I started freelancing. Brand audits. Digital launch plans. Quiet work, high reward. My client list grew fast, referrals, DMs, startup forums. While Chloe was staging photo shoots with empty coffee cups. I was sitting in on Zoom calls with angel investors. She kept going viral. But I started making money. By the time we graduated, she had 400K followers. I had 5 clients under retainer and 2 startup offers I was actually turning down. I'd also found a trainer, stopped eating things that made my skin break out, and finally figured out how to shape my curls. One night, I posted a photo on my own account, something simple. Black turtleneck, gold hoops, soft lighting. I didn't tag anyone. The caption just said, "Reintroducing myself." She saw it. I know she did. Because 2 minutes later, she texted me. "Wow. Who's the baddie? Fire, fire, fire." I still didn't answer. Not because I hated her. But because I'd outgrown her. And when you outgrow someone, you don't throw shade. You throw silence. Fast forward 2 years. I was 26. Leading strategy at a boutique tech brand that worked with fashion houses and lifestyle startups. We were hiring. Fast. And then it happened. One of my team members forwarded a resume across my desk. "Thought this name looked familiar," she said. "Chloe. Applying for a brand coordinator role." My throat tightened. Not from fear. From the full circle silence of the moment. There it was. She needed me. The interview was scheduled for 3 p.m. I didn't plan to be there. At first. But something in me said, Be in the room. Not for revenge. For clarity. I sat in the glass-walled conference room as Chloe walked in, late by 6 minutes. Same blowout. Same air of practiced casualness. She didn't look up right away. Hi. Sorry, the train, ugh. But I'm super excited to be here, she said, dropping into the chair across from me. Then she finally raised her eyes. And froze. She blinked. Then blinked again. Grace, she said, like a question. I smiled. Calm. Neutral. Hi, Chloe. Welcome. She laughed once, sharp, awkward. Oh my God. I didn't know you worked here. I didn't respond. I let the silence answer for me. Her eyes darted to the junior recruiter beside me, then back. And I saw it. The exact second she realized who I was. And who I had become. I opened her resume. Let's get started, shall we? She tried to rally. Gave buzzwords. Talked in loops. Mentioned campaigns she'd led that I knew she'd barely touched. And I kept my face still. Because this wasn't about power. It was about presence. By the end of the interview, her voice had dropped an octave. The smile was gone. She stood slowly. Grace, she said softly, I know I wasn't always kind. Back then. Back then. Like it was ancient history. Like she hadn't branded me for years with words dipped in glittered cruelty. I stood, too. And said only this. We're looking for someone who knows how to work behind the scenes. Not just someone who knows how to perform. She flinched. Then nodded. I watched her walk out, head down, the first time I'd ever seen her look small. When the door clicked shut, the recruiter turned to me. Was that weird for you? She asked. I smiled. Not at all. Because closure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a chair. A desk. A nameplate on the door she didn't expect. Mine. I didn't make the decision right away. I sat with it. Her resume sat in my inbox for 3 days. Unread now. Unnecessary. Because her qualifications didn't matter. Not after everything she'd said. Not after everything she wasn't. But I wasn't here to punish her. I was here to protect the team I'd built. The culture I'd fought for. No ego. No cruelty. No performative girl power. So I called in my recruiting lead and said, don't move her forward. She's not a culture fit. Simple. Clean. No drama. She'd get a generic email. No personal rejection. No opportunity to spin it. Just silence. The same silence she once wrapped around me like a leash. The same silence I used to rebuild. And I knew she'd recognize it. Because silence was the one thing she'd never mastered. The next day, I got a text from a number I hadn't saved. I just wanted to say sorry. For everything. I get it now. I really do. I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter. Because I was busy. Busy leading a team. Mentoring interns. Designing a product launch. Living a life that wasn't built on being someone's buffer. That week, one of my newer employees, Jess, pulled me aside after a meeting. You make space, she said. Like, the way you lead? It's not loud. But it's solid. I nodded. Because that's what I'd built. A company where no one had to shrink to fit in. Where no one had to be the pretty one, or the smart one, or the quiet one. They could just be whole. That weekend, I posted one photo. Me, at my desk. Minimal makeup. No filter. Just a caption. I used to be the ugly friend. Now I hire people based on how they treat the ones no one's watching. It went viral. DMs flooded in. Stories poured out. People saying, This was me. And Chloe? She watched it all happen. But this time, from the outside. The invitation came in a white envelope with gold lettering. Women Forward, Leadership Summit 2025. Keynote speaker, Grace Ellison. I stared at it for a full minute before I smiled. Not because I needed the stage. But because I used to sit in the audience. Wishing someone would say the thing I needed to hear. Now, I had the mic. The weeks leading up to the event were a blur. Slides. Outlines. Drafts. But nothing felt right. Because I didn't want to give a talk full of buzzwords. I didn't want to sound like a boss babe, cliché in a pantsuit with a ring light. I wanted to tell the truth. So I threw the outline away. And wrote a new title on a blank page. Leading without leaving yourself behind. When the day came, I wore black wide-leg trousers and a soft gray blouse. No flashy logos. No polished script. Just me. The room was full. Every chair taken. Women of all ages, all stages, some in heels, some in hoodies. I stepped onto the stage and took the mic. And I said. For years, I was the sidekick. The one people forgot. The ugly friend. And I wore that label like it was fact. But here's what they never tell you, when someone dims you, it's not because you're dull. It's because they're afraid of how bright you could be if you ever stopped shrinking. The room was silent. Not polite silent. Locked in silent. I told them about Chloe. Not by name. Not with venom. But as a symbol, of every person who's ever made us feel like being smart, quiet, introverted, awkward, real, was a liability. I didn't rise by becoming like her. I rose by refusing to become her. And they stood. Clapping. Crying. Some just nodding with their hands over their hearts. Afterward, one woman in her 50s came up and whispered. I just realized I've been shrinking for decades. Thank you. And that was the win. Not the title. Not the applause. But the mirror I held up. And the women who finally saw themselves clearly. That night, I walked home alone. Tired. Full. And in my inbox, just one new message. From an unknown email address. I saw the clip. I guess you're the main character now. No name. No signature. But I knew exactly who it was. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't acting. I was the main character. And I always had been. The email was from a global lifestyle brand. Minimalist, modern, massive reach. They wanted me for a campaign. Nothing flashy, just a series on modern leadership told through real women. Authentic voices. Candid shots. No scripts. It was everything I believed in. Until I saw the last line. We'd also love to feature your journey alongside another one of our confirmed faces, Chloe L. We think the contrast could be inspiring. 2 paths, 1 theme, reinvention. I reread it twice. Contrast? There was no contrast. Only a line. One I'd already crossed. I closed the laptop. Walked around my apartment in slow circles. Tea mug. Window. Sofa. Laptop. Then I picked up my phone and called my agent. Do I have to do this with her? I asked. There was a pause. No. Not at all. They'll pivot if you want them to. And I did. At first. Until I saw the campaign deck. There, on slide 9, was a mock-up. Chloe in one frame. Me in the next. But it wasn't our looks that stood out. It was the difference in posture. She posed like she still had something to prove. I stood like I already owned the room. I looked at that slide for a long time. Then I said yes. But with terms. She wouldn't know in advance. We'd film separately. And the only thing we'd share was the final frame. Because this wasn't about being petty. It was about being visible. On launch day, the ad dropped at 9 a.m. The caption read, "Leadership isn't about spotlight. It's about what you do when no one's watching, and who you become when they finally are." The video showed us both. Chloe, talking about reinvention. Aesthetics. Learning to listen. Then me. Talking about presence. Quiet power. The women we forget, and how they rise. The ad went viral. The brand sold out of product. And my inbox? Chaos. But there was one message I couldn't ignore. From Chloe. "Did you know we were both in this? Did you agree, knowing?" I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Then finally sent. "I agreed because I no longer need to avoid you. That's the difference now. No shade. No drama. Just truth." She didn't reply. And I didn't expect her to. Because when you finally become undeniable, you don't ask for space. You take it. The invite came from a nonprofit accelerator for young women in tech and media. "We'd love for you to lead a mentorship session," the email read. "No slides, no speeches, just you, your story, and their questions." I almost said no. Not because I didn't care. But because I wasn't sure what I had left to give. But something in me whispered. They don't need a perfect version of you. They need the real one. So I said yes. The space was simple, bright walls, secondhand chairs, lots of stickers on laptops. 20 young women sat in a circle, notebooks open, eyes wide. Some in blazers. Some in hoodies. All of them trying to figure out how to become someone no one could ignore. We talked about everything. Boundaries. Branding. Betrayal. How to pitch your value without performing your pain. And then one girl raised her hand. She looked like I used to, soft sweater, nervous smile, apology in her posture. "What if you're always the one behind the scenes?" she asked. "Like, the ugly friend in every group?" My breath caught. Not from pain. From recognition. I walked over and sat beside her. And I said, "That's not a weakness. That's a starting point. The background is where you learn to see everything. The edge of the frame teaches you how to build your own center." She blinked fast. Then smiled, slow, real. Afterward, she came up to me alone. "You made me feel possible," she said. And that's when it hit me. This was never about Chloe. Not really. It was about her. And every version of her. And every version of me that didn't know she had options. I walked out into the sun feeling 10 feet tall. Because revenge fades. But legacy? That stays. The email subject line stopped me cold. "Proposal, Women in Power Residency, your alma mater wants you." It was from the dean of my old university. The same place where Chloe and I once ruled opposite corners of campus. They were launching a leadership residency. Inviting alumni to return and mentor the next wave. They wanted me to design it. Name it. Own it. At first, I laughed. Not out loud, just that tight, ironic kind of breath that says, "Of course. Now you call me." I'd left that school with a whisper. No awards. No applause. Just a degree, a half-healed self, and a vow never to look back. But maybe this wasn't looking back. Maybe this was looking forward, from higher ground. I said yes. With terms. I would design the curriculum. I would choose the speakers. And no, I wouldn't sit on panels with shallow brand reps who hadn't done the work. This program would be real. It would be called Undeniable, Building Without Permission. 12 weeks. Workshops on negotiation, boundaries, visibility. Guest mentors who knew how to rise without tearing anyone down. The first session was packed. Mostly women. A few men. All of them ready to unlearn the rules that kept them small. I stood at the front of the same lecture hall where Chloe once called me her supporting actress. Only now, my name was on the screen. Grace Ellison, founder and director, Undeniable. That night, after the first workshop, I stayed behind to clean up flyers. The janitor smiled and said, "You were here before, weren't you?" I nodded. "Yep. Different seat back then." He winked. "Looks better from the front, huh?" I smiled. It did. It looked like freedom. I noticed her in the third row, halfway through the Q&A. Chloe. Hair shorter now. Darker. Still beautiful, but with a kind of weariness behind the mascara. She wasn't on the panel. Wasn't invited. Just there. A face from a chapter I'd already closed, now sitting in the back of a book I'd started writing on my own. My pulse didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I looked at her. And for the first time in my life, felt absolutely nothing. Not hate. Not fear. Not even pride. Just distance. When the talk ended, students swarmed the stage. Notes to sign. Quick questions. Selfies. She hung back. Waited until the crowd thinned. Then she walked up slowly, clutching the edges of a flyer. "Grace," she said, voice low. "This is amazing." I nodded. "Thanks." She looked around the room. "It's weird seeing you here. Like, leading." I met her gaze evenly. "I've always led. You just didn't see it." She winced. Tiny, but visible. Then she said it. "I didn't know how to treat you back then. I thought if I kept you small, I'd shine more." She looked down. "But I see it now. You were never the ugly friend. You were the real one." I let the silence hang. Not out of cruelty. Out of power. Because not everything needs a ribbon-tied ending. She handed me the flyer, now signed by 3 panelists, and smiled sadly. "I'm starting over. If there's ever space, I'd love to help." I took the paper. Folded it. Then looked her straight in the eye. "You don't need me to build something. You just need to stop standing in your own way." She nodded. And then, she left. No hug. No selfie. Just a woman who finally saw what she'd missed all along. And me? I turned back to the mic. Because another group of young women had already lined up to listen. And I wasn't done speaking. 6 months later, the foundation launched. The Undeniable Initiative. Fully funded. National reach. Built for every girl who'd ever been called too plain, too quiet, too forgettable. The mission was simple. Teach women how to lead, without waiting to be picked. Workshops in 5 cities. Microgrants for young founders. A mentorship directory where no one got left on read. I didn't run it alone. I built a team. Smart, scrappy, deeply kind. They didn't ask who I used to be. Only who I wanted to become. And me? I stopped thinking in flashbacks. Stopped writing speeches that needed to prove something. I was done proving. Now, I was designing. One morning, I got an email from a university in London. They wanted to license the Undeniable curriculum. Another from a film studio. Asking if I'd consider adapting my story into a limited series. I said maybe. Because finally, I had the right to choose, not just react. And Chloe? She faded, like most lessons do. Not with scandal. With stillness. I heard she moved to a smaller city. Started working freelance. Built a modest, honest life. And that was enough. I didn't need her to fall. I just needed to rise. One rainy Tuesday, I gave a talk at a global women's summit. The final slide on the screen behind me read: "Don't wait for the world to give you space. Take it." Quietly, boldly, and without apology. Standing ovation. Not because I shouted. But because they saw me. Afterward, a girl about 19 ran up. Eyes wide. Voice shaking. "You don't know me," she said. "But I was always the invisible one in my group." She paused. Swallowed. Now I know that being invisible to them didn't mean I was nothing. It meant I was undeniable to myself first. I smiled. Because that's what it was all about. Not revenge. Not reversal. Just recognition. And the power to rewrite your place in the story. Not as a footnote. But as the author.